Have you ever felt your purpose slip away, your mistakes leading you to a dead end? What if I told you that it's in profound humiliation that true strength and divine purpose reemerge?
In an era of Philistine oppression, Samson was a miracle. A Nazirite set apart for God from his mother's womb with a promise to begin the deliverance of his people. Endowed with supernatural strength, Samson was invincible. Yet his greatest enemy was not the Philistines, but his own ego, his impulsiveness, and his earthly passions. From his youth, Samson displayed prodigious strength. He tore a lion apart, struck down 30 Philistines, and set enemy fields ablaze using foxes. Each heroic feat was overshadowed by his neglect of the Nazirite vow, a sacred pact that forbade him from touching unclean things, drinking wine, and cutting his hair. His attraction to Philistine women was his Achilles' heel. In Gaza, an enemy city, he fell in love with Delilah, whose name would echo as a symbol of betrayal. The Philistine lords offered Delilah a fortune. Her mission, to uncover the source of Samson's strength. With relentless cunning, she began her game of manipulation. 3 times, Samson toyed with danger, revealing half-truths about the secret of his strength, testing the limits of trust and his vulnerability to feigned love. With each lie, a trap. With each trap, an escape. But the bond that tied him to his divine purpose grew more fragile, and the voice of God more muffled. Delilah, relentless, used emotional manipulation. "How can you say you love me when your heart is not with me? You have deceived me 3 times." Pressed by exhaustion, Samson finally yielded. He revealed the secret of his invincibility, his hair, the 7 braids, the visible sign of his vow to God. As he slept on the traitor's lap, cold blades cut his braids. Israel's invincible deliverer lay powerless. "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." He rose, expecting his usual strength. But the Spirit of the Lord had departed. Invincibility turned to vulnerability. His ego had blinded him, and now his eyes would be gouged out. Captured, Samson was taken to Gaza. Blind and chained, he ground grain in the prison's darkness, the stage of his deepest humiliation. In darkness and solitude, Samson had time to reflect. His strength was gone, but his hair, the sign of his vow, began to grow. The restoration of a humbled heart mattered. The Philistines celebrated Dagon, mocking the fallen hero. Samson was led to the central pillars. He cried out to God, "Give me strength just one more time," and pushed the pillars. The temple collapsed, killing more Philistines than Samson had killed in his entire life. A final victory, bitter and redemptive. Ego brought him down, but humiliation lifted him up. Samson's story is a mirror. How often do pride, uncontrolled passions, or lack of discipline lead us away from our purpose? Samson, at his peak, was invincible, yet blinded by ego. In his fall, he lost literal sight, but gained spiritual clarity. He realized his strength was not his own, but from God. Physical blindness led him to see the true source of his power. In the darkness, he cried out to a God who seemed distant, whom he had neglected. He did not ask to return to a throne, but to fulfill his ultimate purpose, even at the cost of his life. His strength did not return for his pleasure, but for the glory of God. Perhaps you feel like Samson, blinded by the consequences of your mistakes, chained by choices, grinding grain in a prison of guilt and shame.
You may have lost your way, failed repeatedly, and now question if there's still a purpose for you. The truth is, mistakes do not nullify God's purpose.
God does not give up on His chosen ones, even when they stray. Samson's journey shows that divine grace is deeper than our failures, and mercy greater than our deviations. Just as Samson's hair began to grow again in prison, your restoration can begin in the most improbable place, in the moment of greatest despair. Where ego is broken, grace pours out. Humility is the key. Samson only cried out to God when he was at rock bottom, stripped of everything that made him great. There he reconnected with his true source of power. What is the Delilah in your life? That which seduces you and pulls you away from your purpose? Where have you allowed your ego to blind you to the consequences of your choices? Samson's strength returned when his ego departed. He understood that true strength does not reside in himself, but in total dependence on God. His final prayer was an act of pure faith. No matter how great your mistakes, how far you feel from your purpose, Samson's story is a powerful reminder that God can restore and use those who humble themselves. Don't cling to the past. Humiliation is not the end, but the gateway to a new revelation of purpose. Allow pain to lead you to reflection, and reflection to restoration. Your last pillar may fall when you are blind, but that fall can lead you to a renewed dependence on God, to a strength that is not yours, but His. If Samson's story has touched your heart, if you've identified with the journey of losing and rediscovering purpose, reflect on the pillars you've been holding up alone. What ego needs to depart for true strength to return to your life? Where do you need to cry out to God for a restoration that goes beyond your own capabilities? If Samson's story has inspired you about purpose and restoration, subscribe to the channel. Every week we bring epic biblical stories that transform lives. Leave a comment below with which biblical story you want to see next, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this message of hope. Your faith journey matters to us.